Harper Audio presents Mind of Winter by Laura Kasischke. Performed by Justine Eyre. Which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place. Wallace Stevens from The Snowman. Christmas 2000-something. She woke up late that morning and knew. Something had followed them home from Russia. This scrappy bit of information had been offered up to Holly in a dream, she supposed, a glimpse into a truth she'd carried with her for how long? 13 years? 13 years. For 13 years she'd known this and not known, or so it seemed to her in her half-awake state on Christmas morning. She rose from bed and went down the hallway to her daughter's bedroom, anxious to see that she was there, still asleep, perfectly safe. Yes, there she was, Tatiana, one pale arm thrown over a pale coverlet, dark hair spilled over a pillow. She was so still she could have been a painting, so peaceful she could have been. But she wasn't. She was fine. Holly felt reassured and went back to the bedroom, slipped into bed beside her husband again, but as soon as she did, she thought it once more. It had followed them home. This was something Holly had known, apparently, in her heart or in her subconscious, or wherever it was inside her where bits of information like this hid themselves for years, until something made her aware of what she'd forgotten or repressed or was it something she'd willfully overlooked? Now she saw it. Something had followed them home from Russia. But what? And then, Holly thought, I must write this down before it slips away. It was that feeling she used to have when she was younger, the almost panicked desire to write about something she'd half-glimpsed, to get it on the page before it dashed away again. Sometimes it had felt nearly nauseating, that desire to yank it out of herself and put it into written words before it hid away behind some organ deep inside her, some maroonish, liverish, gillish organ she'd have to pry behind, as if fingering it out of a turkey carcass ever to get at it again. That's what writing a poem used to feel like to Holly, and why she'd quit writing poems. My God, though, this thought was like a poem, a secret, a truth, just out of reach. Holly would need time to pluck this out and examine it in the light, but it was in her, whether she'd known it or not until now. Like a poem that wanted to be written, a truth insisting on recognition. Something had followed them home from Russia. It was the explanation for so many things. The cat crawling off, her back legs, her tail. And her husband, the bump on the back of his hand, like a tiny third fist, homunculuses growing. They'd said it was benign, but how could such a thing be benign? They'd said to ignore it, but how? Something was bearing fruit inside her husband, or trying to claw its way out. How were they to ignore it? Although, to be fair to Dr. Fujimura, they'd learned to ignore it, and it had eventually stopped growing, just as she'd said it would. And Aunt Rose, how her language had changed, how she'd begun to speak in a foreign language, how Holly had had to stop taking her calls because she couldn't stand it anymore, and how angry her cousins had been, saying, she loved to talk to you, you were her favorite, you abandoned her while she was dying. And then the hens, ganging up on the other one, on the hen she'd so stupidly, so cavalierly named Sally. 6 weeks, and then... Don't think about Sally. Never think of that hen and her horrible name again. And the water stain over the dining room table in the shape of a shadowy face, although they could never find anywhere that water would have seeped through their skin-tight, warranty-guaranteed roof. The roof company men had stood around in their filthy boots and stared up at it, refusing to take any blame. Also, without explanation, the wallpaper had curled away in the bathroom. Just that one edge. You could never do anything to keep it in place. They'd tried every adhesive on the market, but the daisy wallpaper would stick fast for exactly 3 days and nights before it peeled away again. Holly needed to write down these things, this evidence. The cat, Aunt Rose, the bump on her husband's hand, the hens, the water stain, the wallpaper, along with the clue provided to her by her dream. Something had followed them home from...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?